Our guest today is Dani Carter Iddins, classes of '06 and '08. Dani serves as the secretary of the Valparaiso University Alumni Association Board of Directors and is a mom, fitness instructor, motivational speaker, blogger, fellow podcaster, and I'm sure I'm missing something, Dani, so my apologies if I do. But Dani, welcome to Torchbearers.
Thank you so much for having me. I also accidentally added business coach after a lot of
Oh,
people
okay.
kept asking me for business advice. So I guess I'm now that too.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool, whatever.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Always a plus.
Yeah.
So, Dani, to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your Valpo story, your time at Valpo, and your path after graduation?
Okay. So, well, a really probably not very well known story about me and Valpo is that I actually decided to go to Valpo while I was at orientation at Arizona State University. Um,
Okay.
my
Okay.
I had visited all the schools and I had just fallen in love with the Valpo campus, but I visited Valpo last, and so I had already kind of made a decision, and I told my mom I wanted to go to Arizona State. And so for orientation, we flew to Arizona. I sat through all a whole weekend of orientation things. And when we were getting back on the plane to come back to Chicago, I said, Mom, I have something to tell you. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I want to go to Valpo. And she was like, are
She was
you
probably not that happy at
no,
that
she
particular
wasn't. She
point.
wasn't. She was happy because it's only an hour away from where I grew
Sure.
up. But she was also like, are you kidding me? Like, we just flew to Arizona, all these things. And I was like,
Did all
yeah.
this stuff.
And I was like, yeah, I want to go to Valpo. So I had to call Arizona State and basically tell them I wasn't coming because she said you need to call because seriously. So then I decided to go to Valpo, which was an amazing choice because I met my husband in Valpo. So that was definitely, years and years before that was a God thing telling me go to Valpo.
Sure.
But I mean, just I can't say enough good things about Valparaiso University. I honestly can't because I just really when I look back, I've made so many friends. I have so many memories. I was able to be a part of the dance ensemble, and that was just like such a gift for me because I grew up as a dancer. I've danced since I was 3 years old, classically trained dancer. And so when I wanted to go to college, I didn't want to get a dance degree because I was kind of like, well, I mean, I know how to dance. I
Sure.
want to do something else. So like, let's say I break my leg. I want to, have another, have something else that I can do.
Sure, definitely.
But the dance ensemble was awesome because it allowed me to do the thing that I love, get better at it, and then also still be able to do my major and everything like that. And so I think that's just kind of honestly a trademark of Valpo is that they create so many opportunities for you to be so well rounded, and for you to be able to do things that are outside of your major and you don't feel like you have to, like, okay, you're on this track, it's the only thing you can ever do. That's probably a big part of my story. I was in Visa, which was
Okay.
another kind of like random like English major who joined Visa.
Hey,
But I did that because I knew it was college is a very special opportunity to meet people from, that you wouldn't normally meet and that you
definitely.
may never get to meet again. So those are some of the best experiences of my life, being able to break bread with people who were from different countries from me, different religions, and just being able to learn about other people. There's cool stuff that I can tell my son now that I know because I have friends from Mongolia, and just
Right.
different things like that. That those are things that I really cherish. And then, a big part of my Valpo story, anybody who knows me knows I was a Tri-Delta. So that's probably those were some good times. So being, a member of a sorority and really just all that comes with that, all the sisterhood and the crazy fact that like these people are still supporting me, they're still in my life. Like it's just
Sure.
I didn't even really know about sororities honestly before I joined. I was just kind of like, oh, that sounds cool, all right, I'll be a Tri Delta, fun. And I'm still like reaping the honestly the benefits of it. And so I just love being able to be a part of that community. And just there's just so many communities that you can be a part of at Valpo that still, kind of under the umbrella of VU.
Definitely.
And I love, that's what I love about being on the board, is that we all went to VU, but we all have really cool and super unique stories that we can share. But we also have like a thread of
Right.
similarities, that we can, like, oh, remember the cookies? Oh my gosh, look, so things like that. And as far as my path after graduation, well, anyone who knows me knows that I am crazy. And so I'm crazy, I'm loud, and I'm a lot. That's what I always tell people. And Mike is shaking his head because he knows that's true.
All goes
But
back to COM 100, right?
it does. It does. And probably, I mean, if I'm being honest, way before that.
Right.
But my my path, after graduation was really interesting, because after I graduated, the funny thing was is that I said I wanted to get a degree in not dance because I wanted to have something else under my belt. And of course, the first thing I did was go teach and like become almost like the assistant director of a dance studio for 12 years. I did that. And so that's what the irony of it. It's not
Because of
lost on
course.
me. Yeah.
Why
But
not?
it was my passion. It was my love. And I was able to take things that I learned at VU, really cool and kind of random things that I learned that helped me in my job as a dance teacher, as a coach. And honestly, somehow I ended up doing marketing by the time it was over. And really now doing what I do, where I motivate women, I speak to women and do workshops, that still is like really the root of that is Valpo, because I took so many classes in at Valpo that now I use the things that I learned. Even I went back and found some of the books that I kept, and I was able to look at my notebooks and like follow these notes that I had taken. I'm not going to say what year,
Sure.
but
Hmm.
I'm
We don't
still
have to
able.
say any of
Yeah,
that.
thank you. Nobody needs to know that. And that I've taken, and I'm able to like open those up and read them, and they still apply, and they still help me when I did a complete career shift. And stopped teaching dance and started doing something completely different. And yeah, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about Valpo. I really can't. And my time
Great.
there and my life
Great.
afterwards. I mean, I married my grad school sweetheart,
Hey, there you go.
you know.
Hey. So, kind of going off of what we were just talking about, how did your experience at Valpo help prepare you for your current journey?
It taught me to be versatile.
Okay.
Um, like I said, at Valpo, you're experienced to so many different things. I mean, I can tell you at any given time, I randomly learned HTML and like what hex codes were from Dr. Reiser.
Okay.
I had no idea I was ever going to need that again, but then now I needed it because I built my own website for my brand.
Sure.
I took voice and diction with Professor White, and I thought this is everybody was mad at me for my Chicago accent, and then the next thing I knew, oh look, I'm standing on stage and I speak to people. Thank heavens I took Professor White's voice and diction class.
Sure.
I learned also from Professor White. I learned yoga. He's at first. Were we in that? Did we take that together?
I did. I don't think so. I don't
Who did
think I took any of
No.
Professor White's classes.
Okay. Well, so I was somebody I was like really we were always joking around with, but I learned yoga from him. Like he taught us yoga in like a theater I don't even know what I was doing, who even knows, but I learned yoga, and I use that to this day as a fitness instructor, and it's just like random weird stuff.
Sure.
I learned about issues of gender in my minor that I use now because I speak predominantly to women. And so that's really what Valpo has taught me. And that's how Valpo has prepared me. It's prepared me to be versatile, and it's prepared me to be able to, realize that I don't have to put myself in like one basket, that I can be, okay, I do this and I also do this and I do that, and that's okay. You don't have to be on one thing and never do anything else.
Sure. Definitely. So, what is one thing that you wish you had known before going down your current career path?
Mm. Well, that would be very simple. And you probably hear this a lot, but I think probably what I wish I had known was that I didn't when you're 20, 22, 23, you don't need to pick what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought. At 22, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do forever. So I went to grad school because I didn't know, I was like, I don't
Sure.
know. So I'm like, I'll buy myself some more time and figure out, which was good. I
Consider
did
the
because
truth.
I
Yeah.
met my
Mm-hmm.
husband. But I just felt, the sense of urgency that I had to have it all figured out by, 25 or something ridiculous. And that probably pushed me in certain ways that may not have always been like the best, because like I said, there was that weird sense of urgency. Also didn't help that I graduated around the recession. And so that also, you know,
Sure.
put you in a weird spot. My husband and I remember we would sit in the kitchen with the phone book open and just call places and be like, are you hiring? Are you hiring? Are you hiring? So that
Mm-hmm.
also made me feel not great, because I'm like, here I am. We're both sitting here. We have master's degrees and we're calling people in a phone book, asking, like begging for jobs. And so I think that it kind of crushed the, it crushed the soul a little bit.
Sure.
Um, because you just are wondering like, okay, what am I doing? What am I going to be when I'm a big girl, when I'm all grown
Mm-hmm.
up? And the one thing I can say is that what I wish I had known then is that I wish that I didn't think that failure meant not having it all figured out. And I wish that, I was okay with doing something that was outside of my comfort zone, because I played it very safe for,
Sure.
and like I said, I went and taught at a dance studio. So I
Mm-hmm.
went right back to what I knew. And I just thought, well, this is safe and this is good and this will no nothing, I know this. I don't have
Right.
to,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just wish that I had the courage, I guess, to step out and do what I had wanted to do, because but I was afraid that I couldn't, because
Sure.
good girls who go to Catholic school and then the Lutheran universities, we do this. We don't become, artsy fartsy crazy people, and,
Sure.
and
Sure.
all that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is being okay with not having your entire life planned out at 25.
You mean we don't have to? What's
Yeah,
what?
because listen, I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up.
Here, here, right? I hear ya. So, as you've been working on your podcast, because you have your own podcast
hmm
as well, what are some things that you have learned about either yourself or others by working on that project?
Well, okay. So the first thing that I have learned, and my podcast is for moms. It's something that it came out of my work with Mops International. I was a table leader at my church for several years, and the overarching conversation that I would have with most of the moms was that they loved being a mom, but they just were kind of like, but like, what else? What else am I
Okay.
doing? What is, they had dreams, they had aspirations that they, had before they were moms, but now they felt like because they became moms, they were no longer like allowed, quote unquote, to do them. So one day I sat down and I had all these things that I had been always thinking, and I would give advice all the time. And then finally I said, well, why don't I write these things down? And because I figured if my group of friends at my church were saying this, then probably other moms were too.
Sure.
Come to find out, that's exactly kind of what happened. So I started my podcast, and I started just giving advice on how to anything weird, from like, how to not feel weird when you go into a room, how to make mom friends, how to take your seat at the table, how just weird things that like we think about it, and other people are probably like, what? And the thing I found more than anything was that we had so many similarities, and we had so much more in common than not. And that was across the board. And so when I started my second season of my podcast, I really wanted to go more into interviews, because the first season was pretty much just me.
Sure.
Um, and then the second season, I started bringing in more interviews. So I kind of put out a big note, and I was like, okay, moms, come be on my show, talk to me about what you want to talk about. And I found that I would be talking to women all over the country, other moms all over the country. And at the root of it, we had so like we literally had some of the same concerns, regardless of anything else, regardless of what we looked like, where we lived, size of our family. None of that mattered. Whether we were married, whether we were single, none of that mattered. It's just that we had so much more in common than we didn't. And that was it's been very eye-opening for me, especially in the time that we are going through now in our country.
Sure.
That has been really eye-opening for me, that, you know, I realize, okay, well, at the end of the day, we are all moms, and so we can all connect on something. We can find something. So yeah, that was a surprise for me, because I wasn't expecting it to go as smoothly as it did. And I know that, you know, won't always. I mean, come on, you
Sure.
know.
It's
But
life.
yeah, it's life. But you know, I've just been pleasantly surprised by like I said, the similarities that we've all experienced, and sometimes not so happy about it, because I think
Hmm.
to myself, cool, there's like a whole generation of millennial moms who we all feel the same way. All right, so what are we going to do about it? How are we
Hmm.
going to change it? Um, so that was, you know, kind of what I learned about other people, and what I learned about myself was that I never thought that I was a person that really liked people.
Okay.
It's a weird thing, but I never really, I'm as extroverted as I am,
Hmm.
there's kind of a wall there. It was kind of like, I'm going to perform. And I realized it's a
Okay.
performance. It's a
Hmm.
performance. I'm going to perform. I'm performing now. And then I'm going to go back behind stage, and I'm going to go sit down, drink my glass of wine, leave me alone. And so now this allowed me to actually meet people and talk to them. I was like kind of forced to do it. And
Sure.
I'm like, hey, I actually really like people. And it's been a joy to just be able to talk to women all over the country. And I don't think it was a surprise that it happened. It kind of just fell in my lap right around the time of COVID. So right when we all were forced to stay home was
Sure.
right when I started opening up this avenue to speak to all these women across the country. So I don't think that was any surprise. I'm pretty sure that was a God thing.
Hmm.
And it was a great way to be like, man, okay, we can do this. We can do this. We can get through this together. And so yeah, that was a surprise for me, is that I kind of it opened me up more, which is funny because a lot of people who know me probably are like, what, you're always, you know, haha, laugh, haha. But yeah, a lot of times, like I said, for me, it feels like a performance. I
Sure.
go, I smile, I say the
Yep.
things, and then like, okay, goodbye. I
Right.
think it's what the extroverted introvert.
Yep. I
Yeah,
know that feeling oh so
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yep.
So I've had to reach out to people through Zoom, and yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise. That, and people told me that I have a nice radio voice. So I don't
Hey,
know if
there
I
you
should
go.
take that as a compliment or
There you go. And then, uh, so Danny, who are three people that are the most influential to you?
okay. So my grandma. So
Okay.
she's not alive anymore. She passed away 5 years ago. But anything that I do in my life that's worth any good is because of her.
Okay.
Um, she I've shared this story several times with my listeners, but my grandma never graduated from high school. She was the smartest woman that I knew. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, how most people say, like, oh, my mom, my grandma,
Yep.
they're the
Hmm.
smartest. Well, no, I remember when I was studying for the LSAT, I was talking to her over the phone, and she told me to read her one of the questions, and I did. And she goes, oh, it's A. And I was like, oh, okay. So I flipped to the back of the book because, of course, I had no idea. Flipped to the back of the book, and she was right. And I was like, well, how do you know that? And she's like, well, it's simple logic. Da, 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 you know, and she explains it to me. I still don't really get it.
Sure.
But it dawned on me at that point that this woman who never graduated from high school, she's literally answering LSAT questions over the phone, like, you know, it's nothing. Um, and that was kind of maybe my first realization that, I was born in a different time. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
afforded so many different opportunities that she never had. Women in her time didn't, go to college, especially Black women, please.
Sure.
She was married by 18. She had my mom, she was married at the beginning of 18, had my mom by the end of 18. And that was what she did. She raised her two daughters. And then when I came along, she helped raise me. And so my mom could continue to go to school and
Mm-hmm.
do all that stuff. And, so I watched a woman who had all this potential and had all this intelligence, and she gave it, she gave all the love that she had to her family. And even in
Sure.
death, she still takes care of us with everything that she worked so hard for in her life. But yeah, I think that for me, I always see that, and I want to do more so that I can kind of make her, proud and kind of vindicate her almost.
Definitely.
Be like, all right, I'm going to pick up where you couldn't. The next most influential person is my husband, Jim. And really because he was the first person I ever dated that appreciated my intelligence. Most guys that I
Okay.
dated wanted me to be dumber than them, or wanted, didn't like that I was smart, or,
Sure.
that I knew stuff. I wouldn't say smart, but that I just kind of, I have weird knowledge that I know. I don't know why, but I do. And my husband thought that was so cool when we met and we were dating. And he used to think it was great, and he used to always tell me all these things, and oh, you can, this is great, da da da. And I would always say, man, I wish I was half as cool as you seem to think I am. And so I realize that as I get older, like, he pushes me constantly to do these things, because a lot of times I will have an idea. I'll be like, oh, but this could happen, that could happen, da da da. And he's the one that's like, okay, cool. Well, yeah, but you should just do it, because you should do it and you'll be good at it
Sure.
and it's fine. Um, so yeah, he's definitely been a forward person for me. He's my forward mover.
Okay.
He tells me, because he doesn't really deal with impediments very well.
Okay.
It's just like,
All
we're
right.
going, we're doing it.
We're moving forward.
Yeah, we're moving forward. And I would say the last person that's very influential to me, I haven't spoken to him in about five or six, no, gosh, probably been 10 years now. Time. Professor Beasley, James Beasley.
Okay.
He used to, I don't know if you remember him. He was
I do. Yep.
yeah, he was my core teacher, first semester freshman year. And and this is something that I will take to take to the grave. One day we'd had this really deep discussion in core, and he said to me, he said, okay, I asked a question, or I answered a question that he had, and he answered the question with a question. And then I looked at him, because I thought he was going to like answer the question. And then he just goes, okay, guys, you're dismissed. And I remember thinking, aren't we going to answer the question? And he said to me, he said, Dani, some questions are just meant for you to think about.
Hmm.
And I was always like, that just blew my mind. And it had never occurred to
Sure.
me at 18 that there were questions that we were just supposed to think about. Like, we weren't supposed to
Right.
answer them. We weren't supposed, like, I didn't have to come back on Wednesday with, okay, Professor Beasley, I've figured out, he's like, I just want you to think
Here
about
are
it.
my 3 paragraphs and my
Yeah, right.
250
Here's,
words.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Double spaced.
Right.
Um,
Honor
he,
code written.
yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't have to, he's just like, no, just want you to think about it. And that was the first time. And so that's something that I always try to remember, is that, like, you don't have to have all of the answers. Really, the journey, honestly, is the thinking, because that's what opens you up to all the possibilities. And sometimes, having an answer that actually might cut you off before you actually even get to like the next phase or the real thing. So that's that. Yeah, that still blows my mind to this day. And I told my son that, I was like, honey, there's questions. He's only 6, so he's like, okay, mom. But I'm like, honey, there's questions that I don't know the answer to. You won't know. It's okay. It's good. We're just gonna think about it.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And then finally, if you could step into my shoes as the interviewer, What is one question that you would want me to ask you, and then what's the answer?
Oh my gosh, Mike, this was such a hard one. I literally have spent since you told me what what you wanted to ask.
Sure.
I've been ruminating over this question, and I thought about it, and I said, okay, what do I always seem to be disappointed with after I do interviews,
Mm-hmm.
where I wish the interviewer would have asked me? And usually, it kind of amounts to something about taking back you or something like that, where I'm like, why you didn't even ask me about that? But I think really the question, the thing that I would like you to, if you were me now, or if
Right.
I were you, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Whatever the pronouns are, right?
Yeah. What is something that people often misunderstand about
Okay.
you? Now my real question is, do I have to answer that? Or is that just a question I want you to ask me? No, I'm kidding.
Well, sometimes some questions are just meant to be thought about.
See, he got it. And that, friends, is why we're friends. No,
Right?
no, but honestly, that's probably, I think people, like I said, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but like the thing people most misunderstand about me, and this even happens in my family, is they take my humor and they take my sense of, like I said, I don't know, like performance or whatever, and they are intimidated, I think, a lot
Okay.
of times by it, because I'm confident in who I am. Like I said, I grew up with an amazing woman who told me all the time, like, do your thing, girl, and so I think that that's intimidating, and so people think that I don't care or that I'm
Okay.
not approachable.
Mm-hmm.
And really the thing is probably what people misunderstand about me the most is that, like, I actually love harder than anybody, honestly. Nice. Never mind. I'm not going to say who I sound like, but I love harder than most people realize. And it's almost sometimes to a fault, because usually I'm the one that ends up getting hurt, because I put myself out there, and I don't necessarily do it. I'm never going to run up to you and kiss you and hug you and say, I love you. Oh, but I will do things for you. I will be there for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's probably and a lot of people don't realize that, or they don't, somehow it doesn't get interpreted that way, and they think I don't care, but I do.
Awesome. Well, Dani, thank you so much for being our guest here on Torchbearers. We're so excited to have you join us, and excited that you're the secretary of the VUAA Board of Directors. And we look forward to keeping in touch.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Dani, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know I speak on behalf of my department and our Valpo alumni that we really do love hearing all of these stories. To our Valpo alumni family, we continue to want to engage with you. You're why we are here. So make sure to send us an email and let us know how you're doing. That email is alumni@valpo.edu. Again, that's alumni@valpo.edu. We're still here, working remotely, but we are here for you. We appreciate all that you do for each other and the university. So until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and go Valpo.